The story of the Doors began in July 1965 on Venice Beach in Los Angeles, California. As Ray Manzarek relaxed in the sun, he spotted a familiar face, Jim Morrison, his former classmate from UCLA's School of Theater, Film, and Television. After graduation, Morrison had drifted into a bohemian lifestyle, while Manzarek played keyboards in a struggling band called Rick and the Ravens, alongside his brothers Rick and Jim Manzarek. As they caught up, Morrison revealed that he had been writing songs. Intrigued, Manzarek asked to hear one, and Morrison sang a few lines from Moonlight Drive. Manzarek was instantly captivated by Morrison's eerie yet mesmerizing lyrics and began imagining the kind of music that would suit them. Inspired, he urged Morrison to form a band and record his songs. Manzarek invited his brothers to join, along with drummer John Densmore from the Psychedelic Rangers, whom he had met through meditation sessions. For a short time, bassist Patty Sullivan also played with them. The group settled on the name The Doors, inspired by Aldous Huxley's book The Doors of Perception, which itself referenced a line from William Blake's The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. By September 2nd, 1965, the band had recorded a 6-song demo. Although bootleg copies circulated widely, the recording failed to bring them mainstream success. Soon after, Manzarek's brothers left the band, and guitarist Robbie Krieger stepped in. Despite being the youngest member, Krieger quickly impressed the others with his unique approach to the electric guitar, impeccable musical taste, and strong songwriting skills. In 1966, The Doors became the house band at the rundown and dimly lit Los Angeles club London Fog. While far from a breakthrough, the residency gave them invaluable experience performing live, allowing them to refine their songs and build confidence. With Ray Manzarek handling bass parts on keyboards, Morrison's hypnotic vocals, and his increasingly theatrical performances, the band soon caught the attention of a more prestigious venue, Whiskey A Go Go, where they quickly became a regular act. Around this time, Jim Morrison began approaching record labels with offers of collaboration, but his efforts led nowhere. That changed on August 10, 1966, when Elektra Records president Jack Holtzman attended one of their shows on the recommendation of Love frontman Arthur Lee, whose band was already signed to Elektra. Impressed by what he saw, Holtzman and producer Paul A. Rothchild watched the Doors perform 2 full sets at Whiskey A Go Go before signing them to the label. The band immediately began recording their debut album, The Doors, which was released in early January 1967. The album featured many of their signature songs, including the nearly 12-minute epic The End, one of their most enigmatic and haunting compositions. Originally written as a breakup song, The End evolved into a multi-layered piece rich with symbolism and mythological references. Its eerie atmosphere, crafted through Morrison's ominous vocals and hypnotic delivery, culminates in an improvised monologue that many interpret as an allusion to the Oedipus complex and themes of destruction. The song later gained legendary status when it was used in Apocalypse Now, perfectly capturing the film's nightmarish portrayal of war. Other standout tracks from the album included Break On Through to the Other Side and Light My Fire. Break On Through was an aggressive rhythmic track that embodied the rebellious spirit of the 1960s, blending raw rock energy with a psychedelic edge. However, it was Light My Fire that catapulted the band to mainstream success. Featuring an unforgettable organ intro, Morrison's mesmerizing vocals, and Robbie Krieger's electrifying guitar solo, the song became the Doors' first major hit. To make it more radio-friendly, producer Paul Rothchild edited down the track, cutting its extended keyboard and guitar solos to create a 3-minute version. The gamble paid off. Light My Fire became Elektra Records' first single to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, selling over 1 million copies. The song's success was driven by its perfect balance of accessibility and avant-garde jazz influences. Notably, Light My Fire was the first song ever written by Robbie Krieger, marking the beginning of the Doors' rise to fame. Following the commercial success of their debut album, the Doors spent the next year performing live and making television appearances. One of their most memorable moments came on September 17, 1967, when they appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show. According to Ray Manzarek, the show's producers requested that the word higher be replaced with better during their performance of Light My Fire, fearing a possible drug reference. The band initially agreed, but when the time came, they performed the song in its original form, either because they never intended to comply or because Jim Morrison got caught up in the moment and forgot to make the change. Regardless, Higher was broadcast live on national television, and an enraged Ed Sullivan immediately canceled 6 future appearances. Between concerts and television performances, the Doors found time to write and record their second album. They spent several weeks at Sunset Sound Recorders in Los Angeles, experimenting with new studio technology, particularly the Moog synthesizer, before completing Strange Days. However, the album's experimental approach did not yield the same groundbreaking impact as their debut. While Strange Days reached number 3 on the Billboard album chart, its commercial success quickly faded, along with a series of underperforming singles. One notable exception was People Are Strange, one of the band's most enigmatic tracks, which explores themes of loneliness and alienation. Morrison and Krieger wrote the song after a walk in the Hollywood Hills, during which Morrison was struggling with depression. Its haunting appeal comes not only from its introspective lyrics, but also from its distinctive musical arrangement. A waltz-like rhythm, Manzarek's hypnotic keyboard, and Krieger's eerie guitar work create an almost surreal, carnival-like atmosphere. Strange Days also marked a significant shift in the Doors' recording process. It was the first album to feature a studio bassist, a practice that continued on all subsequent records. While Manzarek's keyboard bass was effective for live performances, he admitted that it lacked the articulation needed for studio recordings. Douglas Luban played bass on Strange Days and the next 2 albums, though the band later employed multiple session musicians for the role, sometimes using more than one bassist on a single album. The commercial disappointment of Strange Days was offset by the Doors' electrifying live performances, which only fueled their growing popularity. However, with fame came controversy, particularly involving Jim Morrison. One of the first major incidents occurred on December 9, 1967, at the New Haven Arena in Connecticut, where the Doors' concert ended abruptly with Morrison's arrest. This made him the first rock star ever to be taken into custody on stage during a live performance. The trouble began before the show, when Morrison was either engaged in a private conversation or sharing a kiss with a female fan in a backstage bathroom. A police officer, unaware of Morrison's identity, stumbled upon them and ordered them to leave. Morrison responded with sarcasm, and the situation quickly escalated into a heated exchange. Accounts of what happened next vary. According to No One Here Gets Out Alive, the fan ran away while Morrison was struck with a gas canister, whereas Ray Manzarek later claimed that both Morrison and the fan were hit. Regardless, the altercation delayed the concert for over an hour as Morrison recovered. When the Doors finally took the stage, the police remained on high alert. During the performance, Morrison launched into an impromptu spoken-word piece, mocking the officers and narrating the backstage confrontation. As the tension mounted, a police lieutenant approached the stage, only for Morrison to shove the microphone in his face and sarcastically invite him to speak. That was the breaking point. The police stormed the stage, dragged Morrison away mid-performance, and arrested him for inciting a riot, obscenity, and public indecency. The already restless audience, frustrated from waiting, turned chaotic. Morrison was taken to the local police station, booked, and photographed. However, within weeks, all charges, along with those against 3 journalists caught in the scuffle, were dropped due to lack of evidence. This incident, though scandalous, only added to Morrison's rebellious image and deepened his sense of invincibility. As the band's fame soared, so did Morrison's erratic behavior, fueled by alcohol and increasingly unpredictable antics. The recording of the Doors' third album in April 1968 was fraught with tension, largely due to Jim Morrison's escalating alcohol addiction and creative conflicts with producer Paul Rothschild. One major point of contention was Celebration of the Lizard, a 17-minute experimental composition that Morrison envisioned as the album's centerpiece. Rothschild, however, rejected it, deeming it too uncommercial. Despite these struggles, Waiting for the Sun, released on July 3, 1968, became the Doors' first and only album to reach #1 on the US charts. The lead single, Hello I Love You, became their second #1 hit, propelled by its energetic rhythm and catchy simplicity. The song bore a striking resemblance to the Kinks' All Day and All of the Night, sparking accusations of plagiarism, but it remained a significant part of the Doors' legacy, demonstrating their ability to craft radio-friendly hits. Following the album's success, the band capitalized on their growing fame with a short European tour before returning to the US to record their fourth album, The Soft Parade, released in 1969. One of its standout tracks, Touch Me, had already been released as a single in 1968 and became one of the band's biggest commercial successes, reaching #3 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song's lyrics brim with passion and longing, with Morrison expressing urgency and desire in simple yet emotionally charged lines. The track's finale is particularly memorable for Morrison's unexpected exclamation, "Stronger than dirt," a reference to a well-known Ajax cleaning product jingle. This playful nod added a touch of irony, lightening the song's dramatic intensity. However, behind the success of these four albums lurked deepening internal conflicts. Morrison's heavy drinking caused significant delays in the recording process, leading to soaring studio costs and frequent clashes with the band. His growing animosity toward Robbie Krieger was particularly disruptive, as he often refused to sing Krieger's compositions. While Morrison's erratic behavior could be excused when balanced by commercial success, his unpredictable antics during live performances proved far more damaging, threatening the band's reputation and stability. On March 1, 1969, at the Dinner Key Auditorium in the Coconut Grove neighborhood of Miami, Florida, the Doors gave what would become the most controversial and infamous performance of their career, one that nearly derailed the band. The venue, a converted seaplane hangar, lacked air conditioning on that sweltering night, and to maximize ticket sales, the promoter had removed all seating, packing 12,000 people into a space designed for 7,000. Morrison, who had been drinking heavily all day, missed multiple connecting flights and arrived in Miami over an hour late, already intoxicated. From the very start, the performance was strained, with Morrison frequently pausing mid-song, frustrating both the band and the restless crowd. His erratic behavior oscillated between provocation and charm, delivering messages of love and aggression in equal measure. As the band launched into their second song, Touch Me, Morrison abruptly began shouting in protest, forcing the performance to a halt. The chaos escalated when he snatched a police officer's hat and tossed it into the audience. The officer retaliated by grabbing Morrison's own hat and hurling it in the same direction. The concert quickly devolved into mayhem, with Morrison removing his shirt, holding it suggestively in front of his groin, and making exaggerated gestures behind it. Keyboardist Ray Manzarek later described the scene as a mass religious hallucination. 4 days later, the Dade County Sheriff's Office issued an arrest warrant for Morrison, charging him with indecent exposure, public intoxication, profanity, and simulated oral sex with guitarist Robbie Krieger. He refused a plea bargain that would have required the Doors to perform a free concert in Miami and was ultimately convicted, receiving a 6-month prison sentence with hard labor and a $500 fine. He remained free while awaiting appeal. Morrison's troubles didn't end there. In November 1969, he was arrested again, this time for allegedly harassing airline staff on a flight to Phoenix, Arizona, where he was traveling to see the Rolling Stones. He and his friend, actor Tom Baker, were charged with interfering with the flight of an intercontinental airplane and public intoxication. Had Morrison been convicted of the most serious charge, he could have faced a decade in prison. However, the case was dismissed in April 1970, after a flight attendant admitted she had mistakenly identified Morrison as Baker. Despite Morrison's increasingly erratic behavior, the Doors managed to stay afloat with strong new releases. In 1970, they unveiled their fifth studio album, Morrison Hotel, which marked a return to a raw blues rock sound. The album opened with Roadhouse Blues and reached number 4 on the US charts, reviving the band's status among both fans and critics. That July, they followed up with Absolutely Live, their first official live album, which climbed to number 8 on the charts. The band attempted to capitalize on their renewed momentum with live performances, and for a time, things seemed to be stabilizing. However, their last concert with Morrison, held at the Warehouse in New Orleans on December 12, 1970, ended in disaster. In the middle of the performance, Morrison appeared to suffer a breakdown, repeatedly slamming his microphone against the stage floor until the platform beneath him cracked. He then sat down and refused to continue singing. Following the show, band members John Densmore, Ray Manzarek, and Robbie Krieger privately agreed that the Doors could no longer function as a live act. Morrison's unpredictability had reached its breaking point, and they believed he was ready to retire from performing altogether. Despite Morrison's condemnation and the fallout from their performance in New Orleans, the Doors set out to reclaim their status as a leading rock band with L.A. Woman, recorded in Los Angeles in 1971. Despite peaking relatively low on the Billboard chart at #9, the album produced 2 top 20 hits and became their second best-selling studio record, surpassed only by their debut. The album leaned into their R&B roots, though tensions arose during rehearsals when longtime producer Paul Rothchild dismissed Love Her Madly as cocktail lounge music and quit. Production was then taken over by Bruce Botnick and the band. The title track, along with the singles Love Her Madly and Riders on the Storm, became staples of rock radio, with the latter later inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame for its impact on recorded music. In the song L.A. Woman, Morrison rearranges the letters of his name to chant, Mr. Mojo Risin'. A brief clip of the band performing Crawling Kingsnake was filmed during the sessions and remains the last known footage of The Doors with Morrison. After completing L.A. Woman, Morrison informed the band of his plans to travel to Paris. His bandmates generally supported the idea, hoping he would take time to reflect on the past years. In March 1971, he took a leave of absence from the Doors and joined his girlfriend Pamela Corson in an apartment she was renting at 1719 Rue Beautreillis in Le Marais, 4th arrondissement. In letters to friends, he described taking long walks alone through the city. During this period, he shaved his beard and lost some of the weight he had gained in previous months. He also called John Densmore to ask how L.A. Woman was performing commercially. This would be the last time any of the band members spoke to him. On July 3, 1971, Morrison was found dead in the bathroom of his apartment at approximately 6 a.m. He was 27 years old. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, though no autopsy was performed, as French law did not require one. Some eyewitnesses later claimed that his death was caused by a drug overdose. The Doors' next album, Other Voices, had been planned while Morrison was in Paris, with the assumption that he would return to complete it. After his death, the surviving members considered bringing in replacements, including Paul McCartney on bass and Iggy Pop on vocals. However, neither materialized, and Krieger and Manzarek took over lead vocal duties. In many ways, this marked the band's decline. Neither Krieger nor Manzarek could truly replace Morrison, and their early 70s albums Other Voices and Full Circle failed to crack the top 10, making them commercial disappointments. When their contract with Elektra Records expired in 1973, the band quietly disbanded. In 1978, the Doors released An American Prayer, adding musical accompaniment to Morrison's previously recorded poetry readings. The album was a commercial success and achieved platinum certification. 2 years later, it was nominated for a Grammy Award in the spoken word category, but ultimately lost to John Gielgud's The Ages of Man. Despite attempts to reunite and various solo projects from its members, the Doors' golden era ended with the loss of their frontman and iconic figurehead, Jim Morrison. Yet, in their brief but intense years of activity, the band left an indelible mark on music history. Their songs continue to be featured in films, commercials, and on radio stations worldwide, while Morrison remains one of rock's most enigmatic and enduring legends.